So again, if you just arrived, please sign in the chat, first and last name for students. And if you are a parent with a different last name or guardian, please tell us who your student is. So here's all the things we're going to go through very rapidly tonight. In addition to, we have new staff to introduce, which isn't on this list, and also ECA Pi. So we're going to quickly go over how we're wrapping up this spring, the things that are still outstanding, things you still need to do. We're going to give you all of your August dates and reminders. We're going to go over a whole lot of stuff for the fall. So as you can see, there's a big list of things. So I'm just going to move right on. First off, grades. As you know, 9th grade academy, you have not had letter grades attached to your transcript yet. But that will change. For some of you, it will change this semester if you are taking the CTAR 279 EMU theater class. You will receive your first permanent grade on your college transcript. And I think I've got maybe 20 of you who fall into that category. So that's the first thing. You may, if you wish, if you have had one of those amazing years, which is very rare in the 9th grade, but it does happen, where your mastery scores for all of fall and all of winter, or one or the other, were really, really high, like 85% or higher mastery scores in your content area. You can talk with your core advisor and they can talk to you about how you may, if you wish, and it's only available for those core content classes in fall or winter, you can convert those. You can fill out a form to convert those mastery percentages to their equivalent letter grade. So that's something that you would discuss with your core advisor. But stuff that's still outstanding a little bit from last semester, I should say, is CLIC. Some of you have incompletes or LNCs. So Ms. Fountain, you want to chime in here, please?
Yes, so all students received an email last semester letting them know that if they did not complete something, perhaps Zello and or meeting with me, then they would have received an incomplete in their CLIC class, and all they need to do is follow through on those two things, or one if that's what they have. And once they let me know, then I will put in a grade change for that. If a student has an LNC, they can come and see me directly, because that means there's just a lot that they're missing and we'd have to come up with a plan for that. But right, it's been in the weekly newsletter ever since the spring semester started.
Yes. And I want to point out, please, a lot of people seem to think that CLIC is just an extra. CLIC is absolutely required as a high school graduation requirement, multiple semesters, because embedded within CLIC are a lot of those outlying state of Michigan requirements that do not fit into the regular ECA classes. And the Zello stuff is a big piece of that. So students, you cannot blow this off. Parents, you need to log into PowerSchool and see what your students' CLIC grades are. If they have LNCs, remember that means less than proficient, no credit. That needs to get fixed. Or if they have an I, an incomplete, they need to finish their Zello. So that is super important. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit is the reading assessment. So everybody in the academy knows when you came to the ECA, we tested you like crazy to see where your skills were, because we adapt our instruction to those test scores. We figure out how many different levels of which math class we need. We do a lot of work around reading support. This is the first year in academy history that we have had almost as many students show significant losses as showed significant gains. So there's one of two things that could have happened. I really doubt that students suddenly lost their ability to understand what they read. I would tend to believe that far more of those students didn't take the test seriously, which is a big issue from a soft skills perspective, college readiness perspective, passing tests, showing growth in tests. Whether the students think it's important or not, the reality is in academia and in a lot of workplace settings, like even to get into some of the trades programs, you have to hit minimum proficiency scores on the exact same type of tests that we give students in order to be admitted, say, to the trade union for an apprenticeship. So I'm a little concerned that this is the first year in our academy history that I had lots of students get these really great 20 and 30 percentage point growth, and almost as many kids had that big a fall in their reading scores. So I'm not quite sure how we're going to address this, but individually, those students who really, really struggled to pass that test, my inclination is to reach out and have them test one more time, because I don't think it's an accurate assessment of their growth. And if it is, I'm truly concerned. And in that case, I would want to possibly have a conference with parents. So is Miss Bishop here, or is she not here? She's our reading specialist, and I would ask her to speak more about that. But since it doesn't affect everyone, I'll just say yay to those of you who did much better, and those of you who did not, I may be reaching out to you this next week. So how do your final grades get posted? You all know that all of our ECA grades go into PowerSchool. This semester, those grades are due by the end of the business day on June 19th, so the day after Cedar Point. But the spring final events, projects, exams are all that Monday and Tuesday of that week, the 16th and 17th. The 18th is the Cedar Point trip. If you have not yet signed up and wish to go, this week is your deadline. If you have signed up but never did your permission slip, this week is your deadline. Our summer send-off is after school on the 17th. It is also our farewell to Ms. Benson. I am very sad to see her go, but she is going to make a different career choice moving forward, and we would like the opportunity, especially a lot of you who had her for science, to be able to say goodbye. This is your last chance to buy a yearbook. A lot of kids will be getting their yearbooks signed that day. It's a big fun time for kids to start signing one another's yearbooks. And ECA Pie and other folks do a great job of bringing us the Kona ice and walking tacos, and there's lots of games. So it's a fun thing to do, and we do that in the King Hall courtyard or out in front if there's still the construction stuff in the back. Either way, in the general King Hall area. Those of you who do have an EMU class, which for 9th grade is really only the CTAR 279 class, their final project, except for their written reflection and assessment, but their actual performances are June 11th. So don't miss those, parents and guardians with kids in that class. If you are able, that's going to be second period on June 11th. But those grades will not come into PowerSchool. Those grades are going to go into EMU's grading system, which the students see by logging into their my.emish accounts. And again, if they have difficulty figuring out how to do that, they can work with their core advisor or with me, and we can help them with that. And of course, at the end of the year, you have to bring everything back, especially the Chromebooks, because those have to be re-imaged and reserviced to be redistributed in the fall. We cannot just have students keep their Chromebooks over the summer, because there's upgrades and software things that need to happen in order to keep the devices free of, bugs and all that kind of stuff. So all books, all Chromebooks, calculators, any of those things that were signed out need to come back to Mr. Patel down in 122, or there's a sign that says where his office is if for some reason he has stepped out of 122. If you have things that are overdue when it's time to pick up next fall's books, you will not be allowed to pick them up. We will hold all materials for next year until we have resolved this year's stuff. So please make a note to go back and find the stuff from fall and winter semester that you haven't turned in yet and get those items turned in. Go through the backpacks, look under your beds, all of that sort of thing. And a lot of this information is more detailed in the ECA news. As always, please read your weekly emails. There's the Wednesday midweek reminders, and every weekend we have the full ECA news. Any questions before I continue? I can't see my Zoom thing because I've got my sharing up. So somebody will just have to speak up if there's something. Okay. We have some opportunities for folks to volunteer. The next 2 weekends, ECA is going to have information tables at the Ann Arbor African American Festival in downtown Ann Arbor, and the following weekend at the Canton Liberty Festival. And in the ECA news, there's the boxes to click to sign up. We do need more help, so please, 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 if you are able, either of the next 2 weekends, and you haven't fulfilled like your parent commitment or students want more volunteer hours to get out of the way, please sign up for those. Again, here's the flyer on the screen that shows the summer send-off next Tuesday. The reminder that cash at this point only if you didn't go online to buy your yearbook. And then this came from the Washtenaw Intermediate School District today. Parents, they do a series of mental health workshops for parents. And this next week, there is one on June 10th that is around adolescent cannabis use. If anyone is interested in looking into or finding out more about that, this is being done on Zoom from 7 to 8:30 next week. So feel free to, and again, the slideshow will be shared out after so that folks can go through these slides, or you can hit that QR code with your camera right now if you'd like, if you're interested in that. Dr. Fisher or Ms. Fountain, Mrs. Jackson, any other general event or announcements or anything? Okay. So looking ahead, time to pull out those calendars for August.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I did want to mention another event, which is our, we have several, actually 160 new folks joining us, new students next year. And we have our ECA social, which would be great if any returning parents would be interested in helping out with that too.
Yes.
Miss Pete, did you have also, I noticed that Sherry is also here. Can she make another announcement about an
Yes,
event
please.
just to
Yes,
save the
please.
date? Is this the right
Mhm.
time? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, Sherry, can you introduce yourself and
Here, should I stop sharing for a moment? Yeah, let me do that so people can see. There we go.
Hi, I'm Sherry Vasquez Polanco. My daughter is Alexa. I am in charge of facilitating the tailgate for the EMU homecoming game. We are hoping that it's bigger than last year. If any of you guys were there last year, we hope you come again. We are raffling off 2 tickets to go to the game. They are $1 each for each ticket. We will have hot dogs, another chili contest, hours for students and parents that they can do some equity hours so that they can get their hours in as well. It is going to be on September 20th. So save the date. That's the tailgate, September 20th.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I will go back to showing that slide then, and we'll have all these August dates for folks as well. So this year, this coming summer, Core Challenge and Camp Us students is going to be combined on one day. So the morning is going to be your Core Challenge. This is when you will be with all of your core members, from the new kids to the students who are going to complete next year. Everybody in your core will be together in the morning. Then we'll have you all stay for lunch, and then you are the ones who will help to welcome next year's new kids, the new 9th graders and all the incoming 10, 11s. It's your responsibility as my newly completed 9s to welcome the incoming group and give them a little bit more detail about how to work together and really welcome, especially those new 10 and 11s. You guys as 9th graders had a chance to really, oh my goodness, what is going on here? You guys had a chance as 9th graders to really get to know one another really well. So imagine coming in as a 10th grader or an 11th grader from all these different schools and not knowing anybody, and you all know each other really well. So your job will be then to help bring in the new kids in the afternoon so they get to know a little bit more and make some more connections. So that's Thursday, August 21st. Watch your email as always, because that's where you will get your detailed times and what you need to bring and where to report, those types of things. Then Monday, August 25th, a handful of you will actually start school on that day, because a handful of you will have like EMU math classes, for example, where You will tentatively, without being fully credentialed, we'll have some formal structures in place for students to start EMU in advanced math next fall. So you may, if you have a Monday, Wednesday math class, you could start as early as Monday, August 25th. So you need to really watch your MyEmish and your emails for details there. But everybody else, we're going to come in on Tuesday morning, as we often do, into the Student Center and have our big welcome all together. And you will go from there to your first hour class on Tuesday, August 26th. So what needs to happen in order for that to be a smooth, successful thing is parents, you have to have your registration gateway redone. And this has to be done as a separate entry for each student each year. So many of you are siblings of other ECA students or newly incoming ECA students. Those registration gateway complete profiles are what feed into PowerSchool. So if I know it can feel like a lot of repetition, but this is what our county utilizes to go into our formal record keeping system. If it's not thoroughly completed by the parent, we will not have accurate emergency contact information. Your mail will not arrive properly. Please make sure that everybody's phone numbers and those email addresses double and triple check that they are accurate. The amount of bounce back emails that we get at the beginning of the year can be a little overwhelming because something is just off by a digit or a number or a letter somewhere in registration gateway, or a phone number we'll try calling and the number doesn't work. And if you have moved within the last 6 months and did not update, please, please, please get in touch with Mrs. Jackson. She will make sure that you know how to get all of your year-end stuff if you moved this school year and didn't get this updated. So your registration gateway login, or we call it RG, that information comes in the mail over the summer. Oh my. So you have to make sure, again, we have your address. There will be an email, but I know a lot of people, things get lost in email. So really watch this one to come in the US mail. And then of course, for Labor Day weekend, we never have school that Friday. So August 29th or Monday, September 1st for Labor Day weekend. Are there any questions about the dates? And then you also have the homecoming tailgate that we do in September. And again, that date is September. Unmute.
Hey,
20.
yeah, I just had one question about the Cedar Point dates.
Okay.
When do we get to Cedar Point, and then what day do we leave, and then where do we get dropped off at?
So you're leaving on the 18th, Wednesday the 18th, and you're being dropped off back here on Wednesday the 18th. All those details will come from Mrs. Dace, I believe. Is that correct, Ms. Fountain?
Yes, they were also on the permission slip that parents signed. If they kept the bottom portion, it has that information on there. And then of course, there will be another rolling out email that will go out to all parents and students, reminding them of what time to be there for drop off in the morning and what time that parents should be there to pick them up in the evening. But it's all on the same date, Miles.
Yes, on the 18th, Wednesday the 18th. Now, I will point out while we're talking about that, Wednesday the 18th is the makeup date for anybody who didn't get anything completed that they needed to get done. You would have to miss Cedar Point and spend the day with me to make up your work. So let's not, oops, I did it again. Let's make sure if you're going to Cedar Point that you have all of your stuff done. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what fall will look like. The biggest change for students is you will no longer have 65-minute classes. Your classes will now be 85 minutes. So you will need to have some really solid focus and academic stamina. And that's something we worked on growing this year, but we know that there's more growth needed for many of you. So start to think about, what will that look like when I have to be able to focus much more than I did this year, much longer intervals. And while we've encouraged after school independent resource time, office hours, core meetings, math lab, all of that stuff has been encouraged. Next year, it's going to pretty much be an expectation if you wish to be credentialed to start to move into college. Some folks aren't ready for that yet. They're it's just not what they do yet. But if you are those students whose goal is to really move towards college readiness as quickly and efficiently as possible, that will start by using the student resources that we provide. It is what makes ECA separate from most schools, is the core advising, individually and in small groups, teacher office hours, math lab, study center. Not really sure what that will look like next year, but that idea of creating ways in which to become a more fully engaged student than often students are in the 9th grade is an expectation to demonstrate that those in and out of school classroom behaviors and personal learning behaviors to show college readiness, because so much of what you do in college is outside of the classroom. That's one thing we really start to look at starting next year. So we often call fall semester college readiness boot camp. That is the fall semester of that first year that you are 10th grade, or if you're transferring from another school, if you have friends that you're bringing in their first semester of 11th grade. The first semester you come into full-on ECA 85-minute classes, that feels really hard. You'll have a lot more responsibility on your plate. You have to be really on top of your communication. If it turns out you're sick, you're still going to have to send an email to all your teachers and your core advisor that you are out sick. Then you also have to show up and follow through with what you missed when you were gone. You have to be super organized. The pace of what classes will look like will be much faster. The deadlines will be more firm. There will be less flexibility. Generally, the way we think of the 10th grade, 11th grade, the regular ECA, think of it as kind of like in 5-week increments, 1/3, right? So the first third is kind of a review or refresher. It's kind of like that transition, welcome back, you're in high school, but with bigger classes. Then the second third, that middle of the semester, is more like early college. There's going to be some really solid deadlines that aren't going to fluctuate too much. You might get some revision or some retakes, but there's not going to be a lot of, oh, I can go back and do this thing that was due on the second week of school. And then the last third tends to be more like college, full on. And this is where you get the chance to say, I'm college ready or not, and not say it, but do it, where you don't have anything late, you don't have anything incomplete, you have things done to the best of your ability. So it is that communication, preparation, follow through, organization, all of those things. And you have to use that planner. We tried a lot of planner reminders in the academy. Next year, if you try to keep track of it all in your head without writing it down, it is not going to likely be very successful. So we expect you to use your resources. We expect you to get all organized, to have homework. And here's the thing, homework is your to-do list, but studying is actions you take every day to deepen your knowledge and understanding. So there's doing my homework as a checklist, and there is deepening my understanding so that I know I'm ready for the full assessment. I could write a paper so well that I would get a B or higher in a college class. So, for example, ECA English, the regular English classes, those papers are graded on a college level, not on a high school level. So you might work really hard and you might see that you're getting a C on your paper, and that means that C is about what they estimate you would get in the college class, not a high school C, it's a college C. So that's something to remember too. That's why there's an opportunity to revise your papers, for example. And that's also why you will have applied studies, and it's an 85-minute session. Yes, you'll have some soft skill lessons in the beginning. There'll be some whole group announcements, stuff like that. But you will have a significant chunk of time in applied studies where you will have to deeply engage. And if you say, oh, I've got all my homework done, that's not going to fly. You can have all your quote unquote homework done, but you are still responsible for engaging in learning behaviors all the way through. Bring a book, reread your notes, rewrite your notes, make flashcards, work to quiz one another in your applied studies class who's in the same class as you to get ready for a test. Just because the quote unquote homework is done does not mean the learning ends. The learning behaviors are continuous, and that is a different mindset for many students when they go from 9th grade to 10th grade. Also, people are going to be chasing after you a whole lot. We will expect you to check in with your core. We'll ask you to check in with them weekly in the beginning for the first couple weeks, especially if you don't have them as one of your teachers. If you do, you can check with them and say, so what would our core meeting schedule be like? And sometimes it'll be one-to-one, often it will be, but sometimes your core advisors might have you in a small group of people in a similar setting. Like they might have a couple of you from applied studies come together or something like that. But you also get the opportunity to make choices that matter. So you can create your own useful study groups in applied studies, in the ECA lounge. By going to office hours with a friend, you might help to build on one another's understanding with your questions. But also remember, if your teacher offers you the opportunity to sit where you like, make sure you're sitting by someone that you will not be distracted by or that you will not be compelled to distract. Make smart choices. So those are the type of things that happen. And also, when you have to be out of school, we will ask that all students obviously send detailed updates for what's going on to their core advisor. Parents still have to call and let the office know if a student is out sick or something, but the students do have to email, and they have to include their core even if they're not one of their classroom teachers, because the core needs to really start to pay attention to how are they following through when they're absent? How are they getting their work done? How are they planning to get their work done? Stuff like that. Does anyone have any questions about this? Because this is a lot of information. Okay, I'm going to move on. Maybe. Come on. Let's go. We're moving. All righty. I'm going to hit stop share for a moment. See if I can get it to go again. It just froze on me. I'm so sorry, folks. Try again. There we go. It is. There we go. All right. So, credentialing. This is the difference between 10th grade and higher and the 9th grade academy. What we're going to do is we are going to start every class with a soft skills lesson at the beginning of the year. And yes, some of you will remember some of this material, but that doesn't mean that you can ignore it or that you should not be tuned in to what's happening in the soft skills lesson. It's always good to be reminded. And again, we're expecting you all who've had a little bit of the soft skills training, but not a lot, to also serve as role models for the new students. So credentials can be earned not only from your classroom teacher, but your core advisor will also be thinking about what would they credential you as a core student. But they can also be revoked. So students right now with our rules, and these rules have been pretty consistent for a long time, can have any combination of S's and R's. So S means you have solid soft skills. You're just not there yet in the content area. You haven't done full mastery of the content to college level. But an R means you are ready in both the content area and your soft skills. If you're not an S, you might be ready in the content area, but if you have an N, which is everybody's default at the start, we assume we all need improvement in something at the beginning, then you will not be eligible for any college class, even if you have the credentials in some classes. And the reason I say credentials can be earned and revoked is because sometimes kids get really excited when they see their first S's, which are the highest they can get in the first review day, by the way. You can't get an R in the first 6 weeks. Then they kind of forget what they did to work that hard to get that tentative first credential, and they backtrack, or they get them at the end of the semester and then they do poorly in their first semester of Eastern, and we pull them all back into ECA. And so it's really important to not focus as much on the letter as on the teacher comments, coaching, and feedback. Sometimes that's in detailed things in a rubric. Sometimes it's in detailed comments in PowerSchool. Sometimes it's in one-to-one meetings. We will ask students to self-assess, to talk about in detail What are your soft skills in this area? And what is your evidence of that? How do you know that? What does that look like? So, oh, it looks like I make sure that I see Mr. Priest for history once a week, and I see Mr. Meadow for science once a week. You know, it could be a lot of different things, but you have to be able to be really clear about here's what my soft skills look like. Here's what you can observe and see as we are doing our evaluation. What can we see? What is the evidence that says you should be credentialed? We'll ask you to reflect on it. Your teachers will give you feedback, and we'll hope that those align. When they're not aligned, then you're thinking one thing and the teacher is seeing something else, and we need to have a conversation about how those come into alignment. So that's a quick overview of soft skill credentialing. You, of course, unsatisfactory. Those are the kids who might be quote unquote present, but remember, there's physical presence and there's mental presence. And getting up and leaving to go to the bathroom every single day or 4 times a week isn't going to work. You have time at lunch and at passing time. It will not, you won't be counted as fully mentally engaged if you are distracting to yourself or others or sleeping. So really poor versions of that, not turning anything in, those would be the unsatisfactory. You'd have to like actively not try to get an unsatisfactory. Most of the time we acknowledge that life happens and kids struggle and an N needs improvement is how we all tend to start at the beginning. So I hope that kind of makes sense with soft skills credentialing. Again, there'll be review day, which will be a click day for you, and then there'll be credentialing. And remember, between review and credentialing, there will be parent conferences that this year, students, you will lead those conferences. Many of you had the opportunity to lead those conferences last year, but a lot of times your core really helped you through them. In 10th grade, we will expect you to have your slides or your handouts and be able to talk about every class. What are my strengths in this class? What are my areas of growth in this class? How do I know that? It's more about the credential than the grade. So keep that in mind. Let me see here. Speaking of grades, as I said, if you focus on those credentials, if you listen to what your teacher's coaching is, then the grades are going to take care of themselves. We know this from 17 years of experience. So remember, C or higher means you are passing. And we count only C or higher because that's all that most universities will transfer from one university to the other. C minus and below doesn't transfer, so we don't count it as a true passing grade. We will give LCRs if you get credit, LCR less than proficient, no credit, or with credit, LCR with credit, less than proficient credit, LNC less than proficient, no credit. That's the equivalent of a failing grade. And then your Ps, you've seen those all this year. All of your final transcripts will show P, hopefully, passes. If you have LNCs, you are a little behind, but the good news is that your 10th grade classes, remember, most of those classes are a full year of credit. ECA English is 1 full year of English in 1 semester. It's fast and furious, and it's hard, and it's our most commonly repeated class. And I fall back to English because that's what I taught. But there's very few 2-semester classes. There's 2-semester geometry. There might be an occasional something else that we will offer in 2 semesters. But most of the time, you're going to get 1 full high school credit in only 1 semester in the fall and in the winter. So that's why it's so fast and so furious. And that's why it's only 3 classes plus your applied studies, because it's one of those less is more. We want you to go deeper so that you can demonstrate college readiness. So you will have a grade point average on the standard 4.0 scale. If you do have an EMU class, those are actually way heavier in your high school transcript. We weight those a little bit more. Remember, 2.0 is considered, it's dead middle. It's your C average. It's good standing. That's the minimum you need to be eligible for athletics, for example, or most of your extracurriculars, including work permits, because your core advisors can revoke your work permits if you're failing classes. So those are the things to remember about grades. And again, I mentioned at the beginning of this that if you are one of those rare students who just kind of really went through the academy really coming in as a highly proficient learner, so you were mastering things at like a 90% and above, you can talk to your core advisor about making transcript changes so that you could convert your mastery scores to letter grades should you want to. There's pros and cons, but you can talk to your core and or to me about that if that's something that you think you might want to do. I'll pause, see if there's any questions. Okay. The other big thing, some of you might have started to look at your educational development plan this year, your EDP, as we call it. So your job is to meet with your core every semester and make sure that this gets updated with the previous semester's grades, that they know what your goals are, that they know what you're starting to think about as far as career stuff, so that they can start to really help you think in terms of, you know, how much math do you need? And I will say math is the key to the kingdom. Always, always do better at math and more doors open. As we saw this year at our math movie, but I was saying that long before we watched our math movie all together as a school. So your EDP is your plan for not only completing high school, but getting halfway through college and beyond into your career pathway. It's going to track your gradual entry into EMU, as most of you will be hybrid. Well, you have some ECA and some hybrid classes. Your core can share this with your parents to see this. It's on a Google Drive, so you can also, students, if you don't see that shared with your parents, let your core know and they will share it with your parents, so that you all should have comment ability on that. This is a reminder again that CLIC is a graduation requirement. You cannot graduate. We had like 20 students that were supposed to be completed, done with the ECA at the end of winter semester, so in April, but they hadn't completed all of their CLIC requirements. And so they did not get to complete. They had into spring and summer, they had to be working on their CLIC. When everything else is done and they're supposed to be off and graduated, they're not. So please pay attention to CLIC. We also know it has a very strong correlation with, if you do really well in CLIC without a lot of reminders, odds are you're going to do really well in your college classes, and our data has aligned. It's correlation, not causation. But we also know that when kids struggle with CLIC, they often are struggling in their college classes. It's again that organization and independent monitoring of all the different pieces that is required in an academic college setting. So it can be a lot. So EDPs, every student has one. It should be shared with the parents to see that as well. And if it wasn't shared this year, you can request it now with your core, because now next year is the year that we really start filling them in and getting into details. But they are started. Everybody has one. Whether or not they've been shared with parents yet kind of depends on how often you've met and where you're at in your coaching. And lastly, please remember, at the ECA, we are not a 4-year high school. We are a 5-year high school. It is one of the coolest things about early college, and it's written into law in the state of Michigan. You have the opportunity to, they say, go slow to go fast. So we will offer fewer classes and more intense learning in the beginning to ramp you up to a higher level and allow you to take much more college classes than 90% of the or more of the high school students ever get. So by using your automatic scholarship year, you will maximize your college credits. You will save yourself thousands of dollars. You will complete more gen eds, or you'll get a chance to do what I wish I could have done. Most students end up changing majors, so you can try classes in different areas and see what it is you actually like in college while you're still in high school. So that 5th year does so many amazing things for you. It allows you to manage your pacing, to increase your involvement. It's especially great for students who want to boost their extracurricular resumes or do, higher level athletics. I have a student in my core who loves her 5th year because she's a nationally ranked gymnast. And that 5th year has allowed her to do it all, to advance in her gymnastics career and to get her full 60 credits or more while she's at the ECA. So yes, you can still walk with that traditional year that you are a graduate of. So you can walk at the end of your traditional 12th grade year as long as you're in good standing, which isn't a hard bar to meet, which includes passing click, but you are an automatic scholar, first year scholarship, first year of college is paid. All we do is we don't actually send your district, you're eligible to graduate, because that means we stop paying for your college. So it is the coolest thing, I think. So you get to be freshman, sophomore, junior, senior scholars. So that's the thing that I always want to remind students and families of, because they are often confused. It's not just there if you need it, it's a tool to plan to use to really maximize where you go once you leave the ECA. How much of your prereqs have you done for your major, perhaps? How many different pathways have you explored to make sure that when you have to pay for your college, that you are not going to be changing majors, putting your financial aid at risk, stuff like that. So it's a really powerful tool that we have. Audits. Audits are done. I saw the email from Ms. Benya, who is also doubling as our records person. You can see your school audit in PowerSchool. So if there's something that was supposed to be counted from 8th grade, for example, say you had a year of Spanish credit in 8th grade, that needs to be sent over to us so we can, from your high school, your district high school, that they accepted it, put it on a high school transcript so that we can have it. So you can always review and compare your EDP as you are thinking about how are you going to get through the program? What is it you want to do? Your audit will also, it says on your computer only, you can't see it if you only use PowerSchool on your phone. You actually have to have it open on a bigger screen. You can find your community service and employment hours on that. Ms. Fountain, are you there? Maybe not. I'm just wondering if that's still the case or if when we started using this other software. So anyways.
Yes, that's
And, oh, Ms. Squirrel, you're here.
Mhm.
Is that correct?
Mm-mm.
Their community service and employment hours are still at the bottom of their audit?
Yes, at the very bottom, yes.
Thank you so much. I
Mhm.
appreciate you being here. I didn't know you were. Thank you, thank you. And then again, your scholar year will allow you to maximize those credits. And now, because we bundle our credits with Eastern, if you finish your bachelor's at Eastern, you're not limited to that 60 that transfer from university to university. We have students who are now earning more than 70 credits because they are continuing at Eastern. And so they're using that scholar year to get more credits. So that's a pretty cool thing too. So there's that. This is an interesting thing. A lot of you are thinking about participating in a sport in the fall semester. Your eligibility is going to be determined by your grades from this spring semester. So you have to be passing all of your spring classes in order to be eligible in the fall. Or if you have a winter sport that you want to do, say you want to do basketball and guys basketball in the winter next year, your fall grades need to be a C or higher. So the way eligibility and athletic eligibility works is they always look at the previous semester to determine if you're eligible. And a lot of our districts, they don't just limit eligibility grade requirements to athletics. It is often to be a part of the musical theater program. I know I had that requirement when I was a theater director. Students had to be in good standing or I wasn't going to cast them or let them get on the stage. We send reports to the districts at regular intervals. So you have to have at least your 3 full ECA academic classes or 9 EMU credits by the second semester if you are transitioning into EMU. Between those reporting intervals, if for somehow you are ineligible, and then you get those grades back up, and you want to be able to jump back in between reporting, you have to. There's a form that has to be completed with your core advisor, and our records person then has to get that to the district to get you updated and eligible. That does not happen immediately. You can't just like, oh, I turned this paper in to Mr. Shapiro and now I'm passing. No, you've got to actually like give time for it to go through the process. So it's best, of course, to not fall into the ineligible category, to always remain eligible. And to further complicate the thing for student athletes, Michigan High School Athletic Association rules regarding eligibility can not only negatively impact you, but if you practice or play when you are ineligible, depending on the sport and where you're at in the season, you can render your entire team ineligible. They can revoke a win that your team got if you played while ineligible, stuff like that. They don't joke about it. So it's super important that you follow along and you know that if I'm going to be a student athlete, it has a whole nother layer of responsibility that is placed on you by Michigan High School Athletic Association. You actually do have to be eligible in the previous semester to start the sport, and you have to maintain that eligibility throughout. If you fall into ineligibility and you play while ineligible, you can force the team to be to revoke a win, for example, or to receive other penalties. I'm not fully versed in it, but theater teacher, not an athlete, but that's how that works. So super important to keep those grades up. School first. School is your job. You've got the rest of your life to do other things. If you do struggle next year, we start with formal interventions like performance contracts while you're in ECA classes, and you can be put on a performance contract by your core advisor, where they will create an extra set of check-ins or accountability practices to help support you, or it could be through me as the assistant principal. You might get emails that say, hey, we need to schedule a meeting with parent and student to come up with a performance contract to better support the student and help them to become more successful. If you needed an intervention because you became unsuccessful and you needed to get back on track, once you're in EMU classes, you can be pulled back into ECA classes. You can also have multiple levels of academic oversight, and those are generally meetings with Dr. Fisher. I tend to do the performance contracts with our 10, 11s who are in ECA classes, and Dr. Fisher will do the academic oversight contracts with those students who are in EMU classes, is generally how we break that down. Again, we don't want to have to do that, but it is yet another way that we have such a high completion rate because we do offer additional wraparound and academic supports, and lots of things can happen in our lives where we might struggle. And we want to support students no matter where they're at and make sure that they succeed. So sometimes we'll do additional structures and frameworks to help with that. So those are the formal interventions. Performance contracts issued by either your core or by me as a general rule. Or once you're into EMU classes, academic oversight is generally Dr. Fisher's now getting involved because we are worried about your permanent college transcript. So that's that slide. Let me check on my time. Okay, so we're getting to the end. What can I do this summer besides having fun? I want you to obviously do things that feed your overall sense of well-being, but all the research shows that you should get out, you should socialize, you should help your community, work in your community, work with one another, do something that brings you joy and also helps others. All the research says that's the best way to do it, whether you're helping at home, helping in the community, whatever that looks like. But also think about things that you can do that will help you grow and feel good about yourself. Think about that in goals or not, but a lot of times that happens. Expand your connections in a safe manner. This is my little moment to say, please remember that social media can often be filled with awful, horrible things, and disconnecting and powering off that phone is a really, really smart and wise thing to do. And you all have heard some of the mental health stories around this. I hope that you would give yourself that gift and turn off those phones once in a while and disconnect from some of the social media once in a while, but then check in and read your email. Maybe get the old-fashioned device that you sit in front of instead of on your phone, and pay attention to the emails. I will ask and remind students to try to get back into a regular sleep pattern by August. Please don't wait. So beginning of August, like no later than when we come back for campus and core connections, middle of August, right? Because it's hard to do a much harder school year when you are still sleep deprived. If you do need a work permit, you want to get a job over the summer and school's already out, you will have to email Mrs. Jackson. But we do all shut down for about the first 2 weeks of July. So if you think you're going to need a work permit, you should probably get around to getting that before we leave at the end of June, or you'll have to wait till we come back. But the first 2 weeks of July, we are generally shut down, and then we work remotely from mid-July on until we come back in August. Summer reading, lots of students I've talked books about or with. So please, if you recommend something, I have back from when I was in the classroom, and I still say it, if there's something you feel I should read that you think is a really cool book, send me those reading recommendations. I still try to read every book that a student recommends. And if you want me to share, or any of your teachers to share reading recommendations, please let us know, because we do have reading lists that we keep, but we're not going to send those out to everybody. We want people to like say, I actually would like to see a good reading suggestion. And the one we always give, if you have not yet read Mindset by Carol Dweck, this is one of the most highly recommended books. I wish I had known about this when I was a parent of teenagers myself. I didn't find it till my kids were grown and out of the house. But I think it would have been super helpful for me as a parent to read, and I would have loved to have had this information when I was a teenager. So those are some of my summer recommendations. We have a community directory, so scan this QR code each year. We really need everybody's help. There's a lot of times when people need help with ride shares. Either they might need a ride and you might be able to give it, or your kid might need a ride and they could give it. So if everybody could please renew their community directory information, that would be super, super helpful. This is how we share information, especially with new families, about ride shares and carpooling and stuff like that. So please take a few minutes and fill that section out for us. We would appreciate it. And then PIE. I'm going to stop sharing because we have our PIE president with us tonight. Oops, I got to hit stop share. There we go.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And congratulations to all of you for making it through a wonderful first year at ECA. My name is Bob Ferris, and I am the president of the ECA PIE. Some of you probably have been involved this year in ECA PIE. Again, the PIE in ECA PIE stands for Parent Involvement. And this is an opportunity for the parents to really support the children going through ECA behind the scenes. Whether it's supporting them, helping out with book distribution or Pizza Thursday, there's a number of opportunities that you see each week, volunteer opportunities for the parents. So we're looking forward to you moving on to next year with ECA. And just a reminder that the meetings are every third Thursday of the month throughout the school year. And we start off in person, and then as the winter weather comes in, we go to Zoom meetings and end the year in person too. So, and you saw the Facebook page there, so you can, there's a lot of opportunities there to join the Facebook page, and then you can find out what's going on more with ECA PIE. So I'm looking forward to all of you especially at the first meeting next year, and joining in with a lot of the different opportunities that we have to support our children as we go through the school years. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And with only a couple minutes left, I do want to remind folks that if you did not sign in because you came late, I need your name in the chat. I need students' names, and I need parents. If you have a different last name, please tell us who you are the parent or guardian of. And with 2 minutes left, we had the opportunity to hire a new teacher for fall. So Ms. Rachel Zen, would you unmute and introduce yourself to us, please?
Hi there, everyone. My name is Mix Zen. My cat was just meowing, so I was gonna mute. But yeah, my name is Rachel Zen. I live in Chicago right now, but I'm gonna be moving to Ypsilanti in August, and I'm really excited to be joining the ACA, and I cannot wait to meet y'all in person.
Thank you. So Rachel will be teaching some 9th grade English, some seminar, and also some applied studies. So a number of you may see them when they join us in August. So I'm super excited about that too. And again, there's lots of our staff that I appreciate being here. If everybody would like to put any comments or thoughts for our amazing staff in the chat, that's always wonderful. I see Ty is here, Ms. Kanaj. I see Mr. Holtzman is here. You all know that Ms. Squirewell, as you move up into 11th grade and beyond. She will be your counselor. She's here with us tonight. Mr. Meadow came back and to check in with us tonight. So there's lots of our folks here that I am super appreciative and grateful for being here. But they're all going to leave now because we have our welcoming to the new folks Zoom meeting is immediately after this. So I will stick around if anybody wants to talk to me or have any questions, but I'm going to ask all my staff to go to the next meeting. And I will just sit here and let me know if you have any questions. I will now look in my chat and see if there's anything going on. Or you can just unmute and ask me any questions or let me know if we need to schedule a meeting about anything. We can do that.
Hi, I have a couple questions.
Okay.
One, is there a way to see the reading test results?
Yes, you can email those to me. Obviously, I'm not going to share those out publicly, but yes, I'm happy to share reading results with people. Yes, you can email me. The
Okay.
core advisor can also see them. Anybody's core advisor can see those reading scores too.
Okay, perfect. Another question is, I didn't see any email about completing the registration form again for next year. You're talking about
That it happens in the summer. It comes in the summer.
Oh.
Registration gateway. It's every summer it comes.
perfect. I missed that part. Thank you.
That's okay. Great. All right.
Okay, I have a question, and
Yes.
I don't have a ninth grader. Mine is in 10th.
And you came to our meeting anyways.
Yes, I did. Well, you know, I thought it was for everybody, so
Oh, that's the big
for
deal. That
Lucas
makes me so
Steidel.
happy.
Yeah. To answer her question, you're not going to receive that letter until like the first week of August, which is just going to feel really freaky that it's all kind of way back in August, but that's when you'll get it, is in August.
Okay, that is
But
good
I
to
did
know.
want to ask about the work permit thing.
Mhm.
So the kids need a work permit to work through the
Yes.
summer?
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
They
somebody's
have to
not
be
telling
filled
me
out by the
everything.
employer. Yeah, they have to be filled out by the employer, and there's different ones depending on if they're 16 or
So it's 14 and 15. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
going to chime in. And
Okay.
so you have one for age 14 and 15, and then there's a separate one for students who are 16 and 17.
That's
And
it.
so once your student interviews for a job and gets a job, that employer is going to tell them that they need a work permit. If an employer tells them, if they don't say they need a work permit, I would strongly ask that you do, because again, it's by law. They're supposed to have a work permit signed and in place at any employer to ensure that they are not violating child labor laws.
Mhm.
Oh, see,
Yeah,
this is all
yeah.
good to know.
Yeah. Yes. The
Okay,
exception
there's
is if they're like family farm, small family business. Those are the type.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, for most kids who want to like get their first Dairy Queen, McDonald's summer gig, they need a work permit.